a shadow that wasn't there before. These are their stories. The man standing in the rain. I've always loved rainy nights. There's something strangely comforting about the low hum of water hitting the roof, the smell of wet asphalt drifting through the window, and the quiet stillness that settles over everything. Rain makes the world feel softer, like every sharp edge has been washed away. But on one night, rain became the reason I still can't sleep without checking my windows at least 3 times. It happened 3 years ago, but it's still fresh in my memory like it happened yesterday. I was 24 back then, working a late shift at a small IT office in Portland. Our team had been rushing to meet a deadline, so by the time I finally left work, it was a little past 1:20 a.m. Outside, the rain wasn't just falling, it was pouring. The kind of heavy, relentless downpour that makes everything look blurry, like someone smeared the world with wet paint. I remember running through the parking lot, holding my laptop bag over my head, laughing at how useless it was as an umbrella. It's funny what people remember in terrifying moments, the tiny, pointless details. I threw my things into the passenger seat, blasted the heater, and sat there for a moment just listening to the rain roar against the windshield. It was peaceful. Or at least, it should have been. Out of habit, I pulled out my phone and texted my roommate, "Leaving now. Be home in 15. Seconds later, the windshield fogged up from the heater. I reached forward to wipe it, and froze. Because right there, just beyond the glass, I saw a shape, a silhouette, a person, standing completely still in the rain. At first, I thought maybe it was another employee from the building coming out late. But the longer I stared, the more wrong everything felt. They were facing me directly, like they'd been standing there before I even got into my car. Their posture was stiff, unnatural. The kind of stillness that only comes from someone with no intention of leaving. My heartbeat climbed into my throat. My blurry vision cleared slowly as the fog thinned. And for the first time, I saw the details. The man, if it was a man, was standing about 20 feet away. No umbrella, no hood, nothing. Just standing there in the middle of the parking lot like the rain didn't matter. His clothes were soaked, clinging tightly to his body. His hair hung over his face, dripping water onto the pavement. He didn't move, not even a twitch. Just stared at my car. I felt a tiny pulse of panic. I tried to convince myself he was drunk, or homeless, or lost, or just some random guy waiting for a ride. But the way he stood, the way his head was tilted, the way he didn't react to the cold, the rain, the wind. It didn't look human. Not in the way humans usually behave. I swallowed hard and locked my doors. My fingers shook. "Just go home," I whispered to myself. I started the car, wiping the windshield again as the wipers struggled against the heavy rain. When I looked up again, he was closer. Not a lot, maybe 5 or 6 feet forward, but enough that my stomach flipped inside my chest. I hadn't taken my eyes off him for more than 3 seconds. I was sure of it. But now he was standing closer, like he'd taken several steps when I wasn't looking. I silently cursed, shifting into reverse. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the gear. I backed out too fast, almost hitting the curb. My eyes flicked up one last time. He was even closer, 10 feet away. Then 8. He wasn't walking. I knew he wasn't. But he was moving. Fast. My breath hitched. Adrenaline surged through me like electricity. I slammed my foot on the gas and shot out of the parking lot. For a moment, everything seemed okay. Rain pounded the roof. Wipers screeched across the windshield. My heart raced, but I kept telling myself I was safe. It was just some creepy guy. Just a regular human acting weird. Just my imagination making it worse. I repeated those words in my head like a chant. But the fear didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. Because in my rearview mirror, I saw no one behind me. Not the man. Not even a shadow. He was gone. Completely. As if he'd never been there at all. The drive home took 12 minutes, but it felt like an hour. Every intersection looked darker. Every streetlight flickered. Every shadow felt alive. I kept glancing at the mirror, half expecting to see a figure running behind my car or clinging to the trunk. Nothing. When I finally pulled up to my apartment building, relief washed over me. But then I made the mistake of pausing. I sat in the car for a moment with the engine idling. Rain hammered on the roof like 1,000 tiny fists. The parking lot was dimly lit, and my building loomed above me like a dark giant. I stared toward the sidewalk, squinting through the rain. For a few seconds I saw nothing. Then something caught my eye. A silhouette. The same silhouette. Standing across the street. Facing me. Motionless. Just like before. My heart stopped. There was no way. He couldn't have gotten here that fast. He couldn't have known where I lived. He couldn't. Unless... I didn't let myself finish the thought. I grabbed my bag and bolted out of the car, sprinting toward the building entrance. Rain soaked me instantly, but I didn't care. My only goal was to reach the door, get inside, lock everything. I fumbled with the keys, slipping them twice because my hands were shaking so violently. When I finally shoved the door open and rushed inside, I didn't look back. I didn't want to. Something deep in my gut whispered that if I turned around, I would see him standing right behind me. Breathing. Watching. Waiting. Inside, the building felt eerily quiet. Lights flickered overhead as I rushed up the stairs to the 3rd floor. My soaked shoes squeaked loudly, echoing down the stairwell. I reached my apartment door, burst inside, and slammed it shut behind me. My roommate Darren poked his head out of his room. "Dude, what the hell? You look like you swam home." I didn't know what to say. "It's nothing," I muttered, breathing hard. "Just a weird guy in the parking lot." He raised an eyebrow. "Weird how?" I hesitated. If I told him everything, I'd sound insane. "Just staring. I think he was homeless or something." Darren shrugged. "Creepy, but whatever. You want something hot? Tea?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Yeah, that'd be nice." For a few minutes, I tried to calm down. I changed into dry clothes, rubbed my face, breathed slowly. Tea helped a little. Almost enough for me to believe it really was nothing. Almost. But then, around 3:40 a.m., a loud thump rattled our balcony door. Both of us froze. The balcony was on the 3rd floor. No one should be able to reach it. Darren frowned. "What was?" Thump. Louder this time. We stared at each other. He grabbed a baseball bat from under the couch. I grabbed my phone. Slowly, we crept toward the balcony door. Rain smacked against the glass. The wind howled. The curtains fluttered softly. Darren quietly moved them aside. What we saw made my knees buckle. A face. Pressed against the glass. A man's face. Wet hair plastered over empty, lifeless eyes. His lips stretched into a grim, unnatural smile. He was standing on our balcony rail, 3 floors above the ground, staring straight at me. I dropped my phone. Darren stumbled backward with a yell. "What the?" Before either of us could move, the man lifted his hand and tapped on the glass. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each tap was slow, deliberate, patient. Like he knew he had all the time in the world. Then, without warning, he stepped backward and vanished into the darkness. Just stepped off the railing. Like he didn't care about the fall. Like gravity didn't matter. We rushed to the door, but he was gone. Completely. No sound of a body hitting the ground. No footsteps. Nothing. The rain swallowed everything. We called the police, of course. They checked the parking lot, the street, the building perimeter. No footprints. No body. No signs anyone had been there at all. Even the balcony railing was spotless. No mud, no marks, not even water droplets from where he would have stood. It made no sense. One officer suggested it was probably wind or a neighbor playing a prank. He clearly didn't believe us. Honestly, I barely believed it myself. But I know what I saw. We both saw it. A pale face. A dead stare. A dripping smile. And eyes that didn't blink. For weeks after, I had trouble sleeping. Every time it rained, I jolted awake with the image of that face pressed against the glass. I installed extra locks, blackout curtains, motion lights, anything to feel even slightly normal again. Eventually, life settled down. But rainy nights? I don't look out the window anymore. And sometimes, during heavy storms, I swear I hear it again. 3 soft taps. On the balcony glass. Just like before. And every time, I hide under the blankets and remind myself. This is why I don't love rainy nights anymore. The man standing in the rain. The rain had been falling since the evening, thick, cold sheets of water that made every sound feel heavier than it should. I was driving back from my cousin's house, a 2-hour trip through long stretches of empty roads. It wasn't supposed to be a late-night journey, but the family get-together dragged on longer than I expected. By the time I left, the sky was already pitch black. Wipers swiped back and forth, barely keeping the windshield clear. My headlights stretched only a short distance ahead, swallowed almost immediately by the downpour. Every few minutes, thunder rumbled across the sky. The storm was getting worse. I wasn't scared, just tired. But everything changed when I saw him. A figure stood on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just another traveler waiting for help. People get stranded all the time, especially during weather like this. But something felt off. He was standing completely still, too still. Like a statue placed in the middle of the storm. As I got closer, I noticed his clothes were drenched, hanging off him in heavy folds. He didn't wave. He didn't step forward. He didn't even look up. He just stood there with his head lowered, and his arms hanging stiffly by his sides. My stomach clenched. But I kept driving. I wasn't stupid enough to stop on an empty highway in the rain at midnight. I drove past him in maybe 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds felt like minutes. His face was pale, almost gray. His hair was soaked, covering parts of his forehead. And even though he wasn't looking at me, I felt something, a pressure, like he knew I was there. The moment I passed him, a cold wave rushed through my body. I turned the heater up, tried shaking off the uneasiness, and convinced myself that I was overthinking. But then, something happened that still makes my throat tighten when I think about it. About 5 minutes later, I saw him again. Standing on the road. Same posture. Same soaked clothes. Same lowered head. Impossible. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I felt lightheaded. He was miles back. There was no way, someone could have reached here on foot. Not in this weather. Not that fast. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I slowed down, not because I wanted to, but because fear had frozen me. As I drove past him again, this time I forced myself to look more carefully. His fingers were twitching, not moving naturally. Twitching, like muscles contracting out of sync. And there was something else. His head began to rise. Slowly, jerkily, like his neck didn't work properly. I accelerated so hard the tires skidded for a second. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. Rain hammered the roof of my car as I sped down the road, heart racing like it was about to punch out of my chest. Every few seconds, I checked the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him following me. But it was empty. Nothing but darkness and streaks of rain. "Calm down," I whispered to myself. "It's just the storm messing with your eyes." But deep down, I knew what I saw. 30 minutes passed before the panic finally began to fade. I rolled my shoulders, exhaled slowly, and loosened my grip on the steering wheel. And then my headlights flashed across something. My blood ran cold. He was standing there again. Right in the middle of the road this time. I slammed the brakes so hard the seatbelt dug into my shoulder. The car skidded, fishtailed, and came to a shuddering stop just a few feet from him. My ears rang from the sound of the tires screeching. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stood there, head lowered, rain pouring off his body. My entire body started shaking. Then, he lifted his head. Slow. Broken. Wrong. His face. God. His eyes were wide open, unnaturally wide, almost bulging. His pupils were huge, swallowing nearly all the color. And his mouth hung slightly open, like he had forgotten how to close it. A hoarse, choking sound rattled from his throat. Not a scream. Not a breath. Just something stuck inside him trying to get out. I threw the car in reverse without even thinking. My tires spun, spraying water everywhere, but eventually caught traction. I reversed fast, too fast, terrified of him getting closer. He took a step toward the car. That one small movement almost made me vomit. Not because he moved, but how he moved. His leg jerked forward like it was pulled by an invisible string. His whole body twitched with emotion. He didn't bend normally. He didn't walk like a person. He moved like something was moving him. I reversed another 50 feet, then swung the car around and sped in the opposite direction, tires sliding dangerously on the wet road. My chest was tight. My throat hurt. My eyes burned from fear. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if he was following. It took me almost an hour to reach the nearest gas station. When I pulled into the parking lot, bright lights washed over me and I felt myself breathing again, really breathing, for the first time since I saw him. I parked, killed the engine, and collapsed against the steering wheel. My hands were still shaking. My shirt was soaked with sweat. After a few minutes, I forced myself to get out. I walked inside, trying to look normal, but the attendant immediately frowned when he saw my face. "You okay?" he asked. I think so. You look like you saw a ghost." I swallowed hard. "Can I ask you something?" I said quietly. "Has anyone ever shown up on that road? A man, maybe? Standing out in the rain?" His expression changed instantly. His face tightened. Then he sighed. "You should sit down," he said. My stomach dropped. "Why?" He hesitated, then said, "Because you're not the first person to see him." I froze. He continued, "People swear there's a man who appears during storms. A lot of drivers report seeing him standing on the side of the road, or sometimes in the middle of it." I felt my knees go weak. "Who is he?" I whispered. The attendant shook his head. "No one knows for sure. But there was a car accident about 6 years ago. A man died out there, hit by someone who never stopped." He looked straight into my eyes. "Some folks say he's still waiting." A cold shiver crept down my spine. "Waiting for what?" "For the driver who left him," the attendant said softly. "Or maybe for anyone who doesn't stop." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't sleep that night, and I never drove that highway again when it rained. The voice on the backseat. The storm wasn't supposed to start until midnight. That's what the weather app said. But by 10 p.m., the clouds broke open like someone had cut a hole in the sky, and rain started crashing down in violent sheets. I was on my way home from a late shift, tired, hungry, and annoyed that my phone's battery was at only 5%. I just wanted a warm meal and my bed. The road was nearly empty. Just trees, rain, and the sound of my tires slicing through water. About 20 minutes into the drive, something strange happened. My rearview mirror moved. I know that sounds impossible. Car mirrors don't just shift by themselves. But I swear, I watched it tilt downward for a second before snapping back into place. It startled me enough that I reached up and adjusted it manually. My hands were trembling a little, but I ignored the weird sensation crawling down my neck. "It's just a storm," I muttered to myself. "Wind vibration. Nothing else." I wanted to believe that, but the feeling that someone was behind me kept getting stronger. The rain slammed harder against the window, almost drowning out every other noise. Lightning lit up the road in white flashes. My eyelids felt heavy from exhaustion, but there was something else, something pulling on my focus. Like I was being watched. 10 more minutes passed before I heard it. A whisper. So faint I almost thought it was part of the storm. Hey! My heart froze in my chest. It came from the back seat. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just stared at the windshield, knuckles turning white on the steering wheel. No, I whispered. I'm imagining it. I'm tired. It's nothing. But deep down, I already knew I wasn't imagining anything. Because it came again, clearer this time. Closer. Don't look. My lungs locked up. A cold rush shot through my entire body. I didn't know what to do. My phone was practically dead. I was alone on a dark, storm-soaked road miles away from the nearest town. And someone, or something, was whispering from the back seat. A thunderclap cracked across the sky. The whole car vibrated. My body jerked in shock, and without meaning to, my eyes flicked toward the rearview mirror. For a moment, I wished I never looked. There was a shape sitting behind me. A shadow. Still. Human-sized. But not fully visible. It didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Just sat there, like a dark outline in the flickering light. My throat dried up instantly. I couldn't scream. Couldn't breathe. I felt like someone had tied a rope around my chest. Slowly, the shadow lifted its head. And even though I couldn't see a face, I felt its gaze burn through the mirror, straight into my eyes. Keep driving. The whisper wasn't angry. It wasn't threatening. It was pleading. Begging. Something in my brain flipped. I slammed my foot on the accelerator and the car shot forward, hydroplaning for a second before catching grip on the soaked asphalt. I wanted distance. From the road. From the storm. From whatever was sitting behind me. But the whisper followed. Faster. My pulse spiked. I could hear my heartbeat thumping inside my ears. Every instinct screamed at me to jump out of the moving car, to escape, to get away. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Not when I felt ice-cold breath brush the back of my neck. I screamed and jerked the wheel, swerving dangerously before regaining control. Lightning flashed outside, so bright the whole interior of the car lit up. The back seat was empty. The shadow was gone. My stomach twisted painfully. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely keep control of the wheel. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes. I'm losing my mind, I whispered. I'm hallucinating. I need sleep. That's all. But the car felt wrong. The air was heavy. Dense. Full of something unseen. I forced myself to keep driving until I saw the glowing roof sign of a small roadside diner ahead. Relief hit me like a tidal wave. I pulled in fast, parked crookedly, and stumbled out into the rain. Inside the diner, the warmth, light, and smell of coffee felt almost unreal. An older waitress noticed my drenched clothes and pale face. "You okay, hon?" she asked. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stuck. How was I supposed to explain what I saw? I just needed to get off the road, I finally whispered. She nodded. Storm's nasty. A lot of wrecks happen on nights like this. Wrecks. The word hit me hard. I glanced back toward my car through the window. Raindrops streaked across the glass in chaotic patterns. Then I saw it. A handprint. Inside the rear window. Pressed from the inside. Long fingers. Wet streaks sliding down the glass. My chest tightened. My hands went numb. I wasn't imagining anything. The waitress followed my gaze and frowned. "That your car?" "Yeah." She squinted. "Strange. Looks like someone was in the back." A chill crawled up my spine. "Has anything weird happened here before?" I managed to ask. She hesitated before answering. "About 2 years ago, on a night just like this, a man fell asleep while driving home from work. His car swerved off the road and into a creek. They said he survived the impact but drowned because he was trapped in the back seat." My heart stopped. "In the back seat?" I whispered. She nodded slowly. Poor guy. People say during storms, he tries to warn drivers who might fall asleep at the wheel. A cold shiver rushed through me. Warn. Not harm. Warn. My legs felt weak. My vision blurred for a second as the truth sank in. The whisper. The plea. The breath. The shadow. Keep driving. Faster. He wasn't trying to scare me. He was trying to stop me from falling asleep. From crashing. From ending up like him. I sank into the booth, heart thudding softly. The rain kept falling outside, steady, heavy, relentless. But the voice was gone. And for the first time that night, I wasn't afraid.